right, we're going to say this is like part 3 of Stories with Merrick. And so thank you everybody who tuned into the live stream of his service. Thank you everyone who has reached out. I really did not understand the sort of the breadth of how far his reach was via social media. I mean, I received thousands and thousands of messages. Got reached out to by companies, got reached out to by people that I had done affiliate stuff with. I mean, it was crazy the amount of impact that Merrick had on people's lives. He definitely had it on my life, and I'm just happy that I could share that with you guys. Um, but day 3. So some of these stories, they're sort of in chronological. They're not really. Some of the stories I can't really share a whole lot in detail because they still have to go through litigation. Um, a lot of people have been asking for like deployment videos and stuff like that. I might be able to share some of those, but those are evidence. So we will see now that he has passed. We will see if I can share some of those. But this story brings us to one of the first times that I was ever asked to assist another department that was not my own. This was a sheriff's office is to the south of us. I get called to do a track of a domestic violence suspect who had beat up his significant other, choked her with a phone cord, and whipped her with a phone cord. Um, this was in a nature preserve, so just to sort of set the picture, it's down a really, really long, dark road. There's no unnatural light, so there's no ambient light from a city. There's no street lights. There's no nothing. So we get there, and as always, he went that way, right? And I know cops mean well, they really do. And he may have ran that way, but I have learned through the years, and this is one of those ones that taught me this lesson. Um, just because we think they ran that way, or maybe even we thought we saw them run that way, doesn't mean they actually ran that way. Um, so this particular story, he did started that way anyway. He went down, he crossed the road, he came back up the road, like sort of like if the scene is here, he's across the road in the woods, crosses the road again, and comes back around. When I'm tracking, I'm not 100% realizing where we have gone. You know, I'm sort of watching the dog, watching for stuff that's going wrong. And so I didn't realize exactly where we were. But during this track, it's in the main woods, it's in a nature preserve, so it's sort of like the majority of it is untouched, so to speak. And so I wasn't really using a flashlight. You could see the moon had enough light that you could sort of see it was still really dark, but trying to manipulate a leash in that dense of a woods while holding a flashlight, while trying to keep your weapon hand free, it's a challenge, to say the least. It's a challenge. Um, and so one of the ways that I communicate with my dogs while we're tracking is leash pressure. So I call it checking. I will boom, I will put pressure back on the leash. They're on their tracking harness. It's weird. If they pull through that pressure, we're tracking. There's other physical behaviors, nose down, tail doing a certain thing, ears rolled forward. But if I can pull that leash pressure back and I can hold that pressure and they keep tracking, we're good. So I've got good leash pressure, right? Merrick's tracking. Leash pressure comes and goes because you got to let go, you got to switch hands, you got to go around trees. Um, and I had a backup guy with me, but now he is behind me. I don't exactly know where he is because it's like this, and we're going like this, and we're going up around knolls. And then there was this one particular time I felt I had good leash pressure, and then all of a sudden, ooh, I have no leash pressure. And I'm like, that's weird. What is going on? So I pull my flashlight out and I hold my leash and my flashlight in the same hand. Boom. And I see like a little sapling, and the leash is wrapped around the sapling. And from my hand to the sapling, probably 5 or 6 feet, is completely loose. But from the sapling that way is tight. And I was like, oh. So I kind of followed the leash with the flashlight, And I look, and there's this dude up against a tree with his eyes shut. And Merrick is probably like 2 feet from him, just staring, because that's what we taught to do at the end of tracks. We stop and we stare. So I'm like, huh. But I'm like a new handler, and I'm like, and then all of a sudden, this guy was also high on methamphetamines. He goes, whoa, and like throws his hands up, right? And I'm looking, and I'm like, I have no control over this leash right now. And then all of a sudden, I see Merrick like, woo, and he like right in front of the dude's face. And I'm like, oh, he's gonna bite him in the face. That's gonna be an excessive force because there's no reason I can bite him in the face. I gotta do commands. I gotta do this. I gotta get control of my dog. Like, I had lost my career in my head at this point. And so, but he couldn't get to him because he had wrapped himself around this sapling. And so this guy's like freaking out, and I'm telling him to get on the ground. And if you guys ever seen that video, that guy that's in that tractor with that, and he's like trying to pull the tree down, and the tree's like hitting him in the head. That's what this sapling was doing, right? Merrick is lunging, sapling is going down, coming back, going down, and it's like bang, 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 and Merrick's just row, 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 and it's like a bungee leash, right? Keeps pulling him back, and I'm like, oh. So finally, I drop what I've got, I grab his harness, pull him back, and I'm like, sheriff's department with a canine, get on the ground, put your hands behind your back, you're under arrest, blah blah blah, blah, screaming, right? And this guy's not complying. I'm like, you're gonna get bit, you're gonna get bit. And then all of a sudden, if you've ever been like deer hunting or just spent time out in the woods, you hear something running through the woods, right? And granted, I wasn't sure where my backup was. I lose backup a lot of times on tracks. And then all of a sudden, I see this freaking house of a deputy just kaboom, tackle the bad guy into the bushes. Just boom. So Merrick's losing his mind. And I down Merrick, and I go and I'm helping get this guy in handcuffs. And Merrick used to do this thing. He would down, but we called it his hydraulics, and he would kind of like not break his down completely, and then he was like looking at us handcuffing this guy, kind of like scooting closer, and I'd be like, nah, and he'd be like, are you good? I'm just gonna check, and he would scoot a little bit closer, and he was like dead pinned on this dude, right? Anyway, we get him in handcuffs, and this is like the first time for me anyway of, for lack of a better term, like perp walking this guy out of the woods. And so I've got my backup guy, I've got Merrick, backup guy's got bad guy, and we're walking out. And I'm doing the whole thing with Merrick. I'm playing with him, right? And we're letting them walk out in front of us. And then like every time bad guy would either like go to pull away or go to step on a stick or just like that, Merrick would have instantly stopped playing and would just boom right back to the end of the leash. Like, what are you doing? And so it was very interesting to watch that the training, all of the training pieces that we had done come together, because we didn't train bites and bite work at the end of tracks. We trained a passive alert at the end of tracks. But then we would also train bite work and handler protection and all of this other stuff separately. But to see it in a live deployment all come together, and for Merrick to understand, I can track and I can bite and I can do handler protection and I can do all of these different aspects, although we don't necessarily train them that way, I can do them sort of cohesively. And to see that really happen is it was really beautiful to watch, because we train for these things, but we can't mimic everything. We can't mimic true deployments. There's just, everything about them is different. And so it was really cool to watch. And another thing that I learned from that track that was invaluable is, once we got the guy in custody and we sort of broke through the thickness, we were like 50 feet away from where he had left. He'd basically done a giant circle. And I was like, that's interesting. But then through training and through education in dogs and tracking and criminal psychology and all of this stuff, we realized that, or learned rather, that this was actually normal behavior. Like, criminals, there's phases to a track. They'll run to a point where they feel comfortable, and then they will watch for a police response, and then will slowly move, and then sometimes they will circle back so that they can see police action. That was also his truck. So was he trying to get back to his truck so he could flee while we were on the track? there's all kinds of these other factors that really opened my mind up as a handler. Like, I'm not just out here tracking. Like, there's so many unknowns when you start tracking. You truly don't know where the track is. You don't know what is going on at the end of that track. You don't know if there's weapons. You don't know if the guy has killed himself. You know nothing. And it was one of those things of like, this tracking can go sideways fast, you know. But it was it was a success. Bad guy went to jail, and it was a huge confidence builder for me as a new handler and as a team. But it was also just every track, every deployment, everything that we did was always an education. There was always something that we would go back to the training group and be like, hey, I want to try to emulate this or redo this or see if I can do this again, because they were always different. Although we're doing the same task, everything was always different. And this one was a lot of fun, and it was fast and it was chaotic, and that was sort of how Merrick lived his life. Um, so yeah, that's story number 3. I hope you guys are enjoying these. I'm going to keep going. We're just going to talk more about Merrick. We'll talk more about the type of training that we did. We'll sort of get in a little bit deeper now that he is not with us, and now that I can share a little bit more openly about his career. So like, share, subscribe, all that jazz, and I hope you guys enjoyed.